Hi. So, last several videos have been pretty heavy stuff. Um, I've been wanting to do this video, which is not so heavy. Well, I don't know, maybe it is, but in a different way. Um, One of the things that I find interesting uh, are um, paranormal things. So, paranormal things are things that are kind of out of our normal realm of understanding. Um, they can be like supernatural things like ghosts, um, Bigfoot or Sasquatch, or um, aliens or UFOs or elves, um, or things that are less spectacular but still strange, like like my friend at Thanksgiving dinner telling me that his dog would know when he was coming home from college, even if he didn't tell his parents, and it was an unscheduled return home. The dog would know that my friend. Oh, you've seen him in some videos. If you've watched prior videos, his Whiskey Rye, my friend Whiskey Rye, when he will come home, uh, his dog would sit at the door, and his parents, would know that Whiskey Rye was coming home, and they would call him and they say, "So when are you gonna be home?" And he'll say, "How'd you know I'm coming home?" And it was because the dog knew. But how does the dog know? How does the dog know? How? The dog doesn't have a smartphone. The dog doesn't have a tracking app on Whiskey Rye. Or does the dog have a tracking mechanism? Um, Stories like that I find very interesting. Today we're going to talk about uh, the New Jersey drones, because it potentially could be something paranormal, or it could be something more mundane but still mysterious in a way. So that's the main topic of today. But before we talk about that, one of the viewers brought up the term synchronicity. Synchronicity. And the reason why they brought it up was because I was saying in one of these videos, the one about a murder happening, and then the suspect of the murder having having a lumbar fusion done. And I was commenting in the video how strange it is to me that the coincidence of me being a former spine surgeon, neurosurgeon that did spine surgery, and talking about civilization and how evil propagates, and subjects like that, and then this huge event happening that shakes people up, and it turns out that this guy had spine surgery, and maybe that contributed to the event. And so I just thought it was strange. I just made a comment that I think it's kind of strange that's the case. And then I'm making YouTube videos now. What? But someone commented and said this is synchronicity, and so I didn't know what that word means. So before we talk about the New Jersey situation, I wanted to briefly talk about synchronicity. And I didn't learn that much about it. I learned some stuff. But Carl Jung, I don't know if he was a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but he was studying synchronicity, which is two events happening that seem related. There's a coincidence in some way, but it seems impossible that they could be related. But it certainly seems that they are somehow interlinked, but in a way that just defies explanation. That's synchronicity. Examples of synchronicity that... Oh, and Dr. Jung was looking into this to prove the paranormal. So let's see here. Before I talk about some synchronicity experiences, I'll talk about paranormal and why people call it pseudoscience. Consciousness is not well studied, is not able to be really studied by science, because science requires a repeatability. But when we live, there's that saying, history rhymes but it never repeats. You can never live the exact same moment that you had already lived, because everything's changing all the time. And so with consciousness, there is a difficulty in doing a science experiment, because you can't repeat something exactly. Dropping a glass cup from this high, and you drop it on cement. You can get three glasses that are nearly identical, and drop it from the same height on the same surface, and then you can prove whether the glass will break or not, if you do a number of trials. But if you're trying to prove that something in consciousness, what we perceive, is happening, you can't repeat it like 10 times, because it only happens once. So consciousness is pretty interesting. And I think there's a limitation to what science can understand in this realm. Science can understand so much stuff, and I think science can help maybe explain some things that seem unexplainable. But there is a limitation to science, and there's a dogma that we live in our society, our culture, that science can explain everything, but it can't. Like if you just think about doing a double-blind, placebo-controlled, randomized study on psychedelic mushrooms, it's impossible, because the participants will know whether they are under the effects of psychedelic mushrooms or not. So you can't. Also, if you wanted to study something like fasting, that doesn't even involve consciousness. You either are fasting or you're not, and you can't trick the participants into thinking they either are fasting or not fasting. So you don't have a placebo, a control. So there's just a number of parts of our existence that is not well studied by science. And I'm not saying that science is not worth anything. I'm not anti-science. I think science has figured out a lot of really cool stuff. But I think there is also a dogma that science can figure out everything, and I don't think that that's the case. And there's also the dogma that if science can't figure it out, it's not worth knowing. I used to believe that if you can't measure it, not worth knowing about. Um, but there's just so much in life that can't be measured, and you still experience it. So um, I've given up on that, holding on to that dogma, and I'm more open now to realizing that there are things that science can't explore and measure and ascertain what's happening, and that's very curious to me. Um, so synchronicity. I'm sure everyone has experienced events like this. For instance, you'll be like, I'll just give examples of things I can think of off the top of my head. I'd be thinking about a colleague of mine. This happened this summer. I made a short about it. I was thinking about a friend, a colleague that I used to work with, and he was going through a really hard time at the time. And we got in a fight, an argument, a verbal argument. And then I left that job, and I never talked with him since. Even though I think he's a cool dude, but we just kind of had a falling out, and he was just in a really stressful time. I was in a stressful time too, and we never talked again. And several years later, it's literally like, yeah, like 6 years later, maybe even 7 years later. I was just thinking about him. I was like, oh, I wonder how that guy's doing. And I just decided to text him, but I had been thinking about him for a couple days, and I just decided to text him and say, hey, I am sorry that I might have been a pain to work with back then. I hope you're doing well. And then he texted back like right away, and it's like, oh, John, I've been thinking about you. I go by Jonathan now, but back then I used to go by John. It's like, John, I've been thinking about you for the last couple days. It's really strange because I was just thinking about you, and it's been a couple days now. And then you texted me, and then we started talking. And so like, what's that all about? This is like 6 or 7 years later. Both of us are thinking about each other, and then I text him. But I mean, in life, that's happened like several times. Like I'll be like, look, I'll be thinking of somebody, and then that person will text me or call me. And I'm sure people have had some experiences like that. A really weird one that happened a week ago was, what happened a week ago was, I was, I was high on some, mushroom gummy, and then I was laying on the couch, and then my wife took Doobie out for a walk. So they were out, and I was pretty high. So I sometimes things it can be kind of scary, and so what I do is if something gets kind of scary, like I start seeing something scary, then I just hum. I hum like like that, and that brings me back from wherever the scary part is to being centered again. But I was doing that, and I was like, oh, this sounds like a Tibetan monk, like doing some throat singing or chanting or something. And then I did it louder. I was like, and I was like, well, this feels pretty cool. Well, I didn't think much of that until my wife came back with Doobie like a half hour later or hour later, and she said, "Oh, a really strange thing happened. Um, we were out, on the walk, and then there were a bunch of leaf blowers going. And at first, this is what my wife was saying. At first, I was annoyed that the leaf blowers were so loud. But then, the leaf blower sound turned into like a Tibetan monk humming or throat singing. And I could just hear this or and the leaf blowers weren't bothersome anymore. It was just like there was a monk humming. Now that's a weird story. I don't know what that's about. But I came across a even weirder story. We're gonna go to desktop mode. There is an even weirder story that was on the Wikipedia page for Synchronicity. So I wanted to go to that because they had examples of synchronicity, and there's this story that just was so wild. I wanted to share it with with you. All right, so there was some French writer named Émile Deschamps. I don't speak French, but I think that's how you say it. Émile Deschamps. Sorry if you speak French and I'm totally butchering it. But okay, there's this writer who lived from 1791 to 1871. And he wrote of a story of synchronicity that happened to him. Of course, he doesn't call it synchronicity, but he just wrote of the strange event that happened to him in his memoir. So I wanted to share this story. So, oops. Here we go. See if I can get this. Here we go. All right. So, French writer Émile Deschamps claims in his memoirs that in 1805 he was treated to some plum pudding by a stranger named Monsieur de Fontgibu. 10 years later, the writer encountered plum pudding on the menu of a Paris restaurant and wanted to order some. But the waiter told him that the last dish had already been served to another customer, who turned out to be Monsieur de Fontgibu. Same restaurant, eating plum pudding 10 years later. Many years later, in 1832, so that is 27 years after Mr. Fontgibu, a stranger, gave Émile Deschamps some plum pudding. 27 years later, Deschamps was at dinner once again and ordered plum pudding. He recalled the earlier incidents and told his friends that only Monsieur de Fontgibu was missing to make the setting complete. And in that same instant, the now senile Monsieur de Fontgibu entered the room having got the wrong address. That is that is bizarre. How does that happen? Somehow Emile Deschamps and Monsieur de Fontgibu and plum pudding are linked together. But how? What a weird story. What a strange story. Like in the last part where Deschamps is eating dinner with his friends and recounting the strange occurrences many decades ago, and he orders plum pudding, somehow that attracts the now senile Fontgibu to show up at the wrong address. He's not even looking to eat plum pudding, but he just feels that he needs to be at this place, and it's the wrong address, but the right place for how they're linked together. So I found that really strange. I don't know how that works. I don't know how Whiskey Rye's dog knew that he was coming home from college, even when it was unannounced and at a random time. It wasn't like a scheduled time. It was whenever he would come home, even if it was unscheduled. How does that happen? Well, as a bridge to the main story, Carl Jung was friends with the physicist I think I got them mixed up. I thought Polly well, you know what? I got two physicists mixed up. But Carl Jung was friends with this physicist who was thinking that there might be some kind of linkage of subatomic particles in quantum entanglement, or does this say here? Well, I don't know. I don't know about how they could be linked, but somehow it seems like they're linked. No idea. And I mean, there's other. I'm sure if I thought more about it, there's other things that could happen where things are linked together in synchronicity. But are they actually linked, or is it just a really weird set of coincidences? From like a purely scientific standpoint, I think you just have to say, wow, okay, those are just really very, very, very strange coincidences. But are they? I don't know. Well, I was going to make a very smooth transition to the New Jersey one, but I got confused between Wolfgang Pauli and Fermi, as in Fermi's paradox. But we can talk about Fermi's paradox after we talk about what the heck is going on in New Jersey. And now the other now over many different states. Well, let's see here. I'm a big fan of Reddit. I like Reddit. And I find a lot of information helpful from Reddit. But there is a subreddit that I've been kind of like off and on going, like visiting and reading from. And I kind of have like a love-hate relationship with, well, not hate, but it can be frustrating at sometimes. And that is the subreddit UFOs. The reason why I have kind of like, I've been off and on about this subreddit is because sometimes it can be sensationalist, and I find that on this subreddit there's interesting stories. There are a lot of people posting fake things, and there's also people posting very mundane objects, and like wondering if they're UFOs, but it's like a balloon or a helicopter or a flare or something, um, or it's just an airplane. But but sometimes there's some interesting stories and interesting videos, and nowadays computer generated graphics are so good that it's hard to know what's real and what's not real, because you can make something look real if you have the know-how of using computer graphics. But this subreddit is I think fun for me to go through and like try to like see if if there's something interesting, hear these stories, and also try to exercise my ability to determine what's real and what's not real. This subreddit is hard to do that, so I like coming to this, but sometimes I'm like, just get fed up with too many posts about sensational things that aren't real. Sometimes. Well, I've been coming to this subreddit recently because of what's happening in New Jersey. So we can start by going to just a standard news, mass media, and see what they say. New Jersey drones. So these are not UFO subreddit. This is just mass media. Forbes says mystery drones over New Jersey and nearby states. Mayorkas. So many ads. Mystery drones over New Jersey and nearby states. Department Homeland Security sees no foreign threats, as Fenn said. Send detection system to New York. Oh, there's a picture of one. It's kind of funny looking. It looks like a window, like a skylight, with like a very narrow slit window over there. Yeah, a beam of light coming out of it. That's weird. And what do they say? There have been well, just look at the headlines for the other main media channels. Mystery drone sightings keep happening. Could be a classified exercise, according to a former CIA officer. Well, I don't really trust too much about what this congresswoman says. She says, government in control of New Jersey drones. How does she know that? Let's see. New Jersey drone activity may be deliberate distraction hiding potential attack on U.S. Wow, okay, that's concerning. CNN. What do we know? Okay, well, what I can share with you is that there's been these things flying in the sky at nighttime. And they've been flying over mainly New Jersey since mid to late November. But for several weeks now, they've been coming in and flying around. And they have lights on them that look like the lights that airplanes use to navigate to let other airplanes know where they are, or helicopters know where other craft are, like the red and green lights, and then the blinking lights in the center. But these drones, they have these lights and they're blinking, but they're blinking in like the wrong way. Um, like the ones that should be blinking are on all the time, and the ones that should be a steady light are blinking, or they're mixed up, and instead of being left and right, they're the one like ones in the center, and it's just really strange things. And the people that have been seeing these have said that they're about the size of a car or a truck, and sometimes they're very quiet, but other times they sound like a helicopter going by. Now I think that there's probably people seeing actually helicopters. Actually, there's photographs and video of people seeing helicopters, but I think people are seeing multiple things. But there's these things that are flying around, and there's many of them. Some reports of like a sheriff from New Jersey said that at one point there was 50 of them in the sky. They were coming off the ocean and then flying around, and they've been going over military bases. They've been flying over airports, and they closed down an airport because it was unsafe to fly aircraft in case there was a collision. And the military Air Force base admitted that they had to close down too because of one of these drones flying over the base, and so they couldn't fly. So that's interesting. And then in one of the news segments, the New Jersey police were showing footage from their drones that they sent up to try to observe these other drones more closely. And they said that these other drones were unusual and that they don't light up on infrared. So they don't have a heat signature, which the police officer said that all the drones that they know of have heat signatures, and so they show up as bright on the infrared camera. But these other drones that are flying around don't show up bright. That means they're not hot, which is interesting, because how are they flying around? Are they flying around by a jet engine or a propeller that is burning gasoline? Because that would generate heat. There would be an exhaust. Are they running off electricity? But even if they have a big battery pack, that's going to generate heat. But the police officer, New Jersey police officer, said that there was no heat signature on these drones. And when they would try to get close to it, the drones would turn off their light and go very far away quickly. So that's strange. And then, what else? So people have been watching this like every night, except for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving night, they didn't see any. And so people were like, oh, well, this is probably a government thing. It's probably the government. Because why would they take off Thursday night? And why are they only flying at night? Why aren't they flying in the day? So people were speculating that, oh, maybe this is a military operation. They're looking for something, but they don't want to expose their sensitive, like top secret aircraft to direct visualization during the day. Because at night, if you turn on bright lights, you can't really see what's behind the light. So there's all these speculation that it's the government. But then something weird happened, and the FBI says, let's see, FBI unknown. Well, let's see if I can find. Well, FBI said that they don't know. They don't know what these drones are. They don't know who's flying them. They don't know where they come from. They don't know where they land. But they don't think they're a threat. And then Department of Homeland Security also said the same thing. So let's see if we can find that. Let's see this article. I don't want to watch the ad. Okay. Oh my gosh. Wow, this ad is so in your face. Okay. So the security, Homeland Security Secretary is Mayorkas, Alejandro Mayorkas. He says the federal government is taking action to address the drone sightings. He says there's no question that people are seeing drones. I want to assure the American public that we and the federal government have deployed additional resources, personnel, technology to assist the New Jersey State Police in addressing the drone sightings. But no explanation. No explanation for what they are or who's operating them or for what purpose. And then the White House, Kirby, I forget exactly what he said. Well, let's just see what's listed here. Kirby said on Thursday. Oh, I'm recording this on Sunday, December 15th, but it might be posted a few days later. So there might be some updated stuff that happens between now when I'm recording it and when I post it. But actually, it's getting dark too, so let me turn on one of these lights. All right. Kirby says, we have no evidence at this time that the reported drone sightings pose a national security or public safety threat or have a foreign nexus. That's right here. The Department of Homeland Security and FBI are investigating these sightings, and they're working closely with state and local law enforcement to provide resources using numerous detection methods to better understand their origin. Using very sophisticated electronic detection technologies provided by federal authorities, we have not been able to, and neither have state or local law enforcement authorities, corroborate any of the reported visual sightings. To the contrary, upon review of available imagery, it appears that many of the reported sightings are actually manned aircraft that are being operated lawfully. The U.S. Coast Guard is providing support to the state of New Jersey and has confirmed that there is no evidence of any foreign-based involvement from coastal vessels. And importantly, there are no reported or confirmed drone sightings in any restricted airspace. Well, I mean, that's not true because Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So I like Reddit, this UFO subreddit, because there's people are interested in this and they collate a lot of news. But this is kind of a rabbit hole, so you kind of have to like be careful reading well, any subreddit, but especially this one. But they said that The spokesperson for the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base confirmed small aerial systems were spotted over the Air Force Base between Friday night and Saturday morning. And today, leaders have determined that they did not impact base residents, facilities, or assets. The Air Force is taking all appropriate measures to safeguard our installations. Drone incursions close Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Okay, so a military installation is getting shut down because of these things. So that makes you wonder. It's like, who are these? What are these things? And is it the government flying it? But then the government is causing the government to close an Air Force base. It's caused civilian airports to close in New York. The FBI doesn't know what they are. The Homeland Security doesn't know what they are. The local law enforcement doesn't know. White House doesn't know, or they claim they don't know. Some people hypothesize that these are military aircraft looking for something that they can only look at nighttime. I don't know. What would that be? And these things have been spreading from New Jersey to Pennsylvania, to New York, to Maryland, up to Connecticut, and I think other states as well. What are these? And so there was some interesting videos. Well, I haven't seen this one. But there's I wanted to show you some interesting videos. Oh, here's an interesting one. Now again, how many of these things are real? And what is that? Is that just a regular drone, like a DJI drone? And then here's an interesting one from yesterday in Phoenix. So this is not even in New Jersey, but I saw this one earlier, and this is interesting. So there's like this orange thing flying there. I don't know what this thing is. I don't know if that's an airplane or what. And then there's something blinking that's smaller than the orange thing, and it goes up to the orange thing. Well, it will in a few seconds here. So I don't know what is what, but check this out. The blinking one goes next to the orange one. It's really close, and then falls down. So strange. It's almost like the orange one deactivated or knocked out the electronics and whatever that was flying around. Now, there is a bit of hysteria here. So people have been videotaping just like planes landing at JFK International and saying, "Oh, there's drones everywhere," but it's just passenger airplanes falling down. But there was some videos. Wow, there's so many things that pop up. Here's a video of something that looks really strange from September. But there's just kind of weird things that are just flying around. I wanted to show you. Well, the problem with this is that there's so many videos coming up that it's hard to find the ones that I wanted to show you. But some of them look like airplanes. Some of them look like just strange helicopters. but people say they're about the size of a car, and they can hover. So it's not a plane if it can hover. I did want to find one that I saw earlier yesterday, but I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it. Huh. It's weird. Oh, that's weird. I can't find it. It's almost like... What? Well, the fact is that there's a lot of stuff happening. Let's see if we can find clear. If I type in clear, maybe it'll come up, because there was a video of well, let's see if I can find drone New Jersey. I can't find it. I'd have to look through it. Actually, maybe what I'll do is I'll look for it right now, and then I'll just fast forward the video. Okay, I went to a different subreddit called New Jersey Drones. Someone started that. This weird thing that's flying around. It's got these lights of different colors. They're all blinking. Let's see. What are the FAA regulations for lights on aircraft? Blinking. Let's see if we can find a picture. All right, so red light should be on the left wingtip, green light on the right, red flashing beacon or white strobe anti-collision light observable 360, and a white position light on the tail observable from the rear. All right, so let's look at what we're looking at here. This whatever this is has a green light on the right. Well, I guess that would fit with having it on the right wing. And then it's got red lights blinking on the front and aft of the aircraft. I don't know. Does that fit with FAA regulations? I don't know. Okay, well, I got tired of looking for the video that I saw like 2 days ago. So there's a couple of hypotheses that people... Oh, I forgot. Okay, the fire department. New Jersey fire drone. Now, okay, now this is weird because like I was just looking at this stuff and now I can't find it. What the heck? All right, so this is something that I saw the other day. I thought was kind of interesting. This is from New Jersey. Oh, wow. New Jersey Division of Fire Safety Intelligence Bulletin. Recommendations for encountering downed UAVs. Let's see if we can. Yeah, there we go. Safety recommendations. Downed or landed drones should not be approached. Establish isolation and evacuation distances of 330 feet, that's 100 yards, in all, or 100 meters, in all directions, initially. Fire service members should utilize full personal protective equipment, PPE, with SCBA, I'm not sure what that means, when establishing the isolation and evacuation distances, and not re-enter the zones once established. So once you find one of these drones, the fire law enforcement are supposed to create a 100-meter perimeter and don full personal protective equipment and not re-enter where that drone is. Notify local law enforcement and the FBI. Hello. I'm just finishing up making a video. Okay.
You're recording?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Your desk is not in the view. Notify the FBI and then request a hazardous materials response unit, local hazmat team. Hazardous materials response team should approach the incident as an unknown and follow established environmental monitoring procedures as such, to include radiation monitoring. Request the nearest bomb squad, that's number 7. And number 8, be aware that electronic devices and two-way radio systems may malfunction in the immediate area. Well, that's interesting. Now, is this real? Let's find out if this is actually real, or did someone just make this up? New Jersey Division of Fire Safety. Let's see. New Jersey Division Fire Safety drone. Let's see what comes up. Shore News. So it's New Jersey News. New Jersey warns firefighters to avoid crash drones over serious health and safety concerns. Oh. That's the one we were just looking at. So, why would you need to call the FBI, a bomb squad, a hazmat team, stay 100 meters away or 330 feet away, and have full personal protective gear and treat it as an unknown, and you're likely to have your electronic devices and radio systems malfunction in the immediate area? Okay, now that's really strange. That's really strange. Like, what are these drones? What kind of technology is in them? Are they ours, or are they something else? So could this be a government? Could this be our government or some other government operating these craft? I highly doubt it's some other government, because the U.S. military machine would be all over that and like shooting him down, or saber rattling, and like wanting to start a war or threaten to start a war. But they're not. So it's either these are U.S. military craft trying to accomplish some task of searching for something, and using craft that very high tech. They don't have a heat signature. They may interfere with electronic devices and maybe have radiation on them or in them. Who knows? Another possibility is that these are UAPs, or UFOs. And that is something that seems interesting. I mean, I think it might be plausible in this situation that we might be seeing like a, a very rare instance of multiple mass sightings over many days. And there are some historical there are some historical examples of things like that. So there was let's see here, UFO wood etching city. Okay, yeah. This is the one. In Nuremberg in the Holy Roman Empire, a woodcut was made, 1561, describing a celestial event that occurred on April 4th of 1561. And the people of Nuremberg in Europe saw all these strange things flying in the sky, like rods, circles, crosses. The circles were coming in and out of these big cylindrical things, and then it looked like they were fighting, and some had crashed down to the earth and smoking. So there's a woodcut about this event that was witnessed in the city. That's in 1561. There was, but this only happened over one day. There was a, let's see here, Brazilian UFO. Operation Prato. So in Brazil in 1970, when was this? 1977, from October 20th to December 5th, the Brazilian Air Force and villagers of the of this town named Colares, that's on the ocean, watched these UFOs come in and out of the ocean and fly over the inhabitants of the town. And at that time, the people were saying that these things that were flying look like giant refrigerators. Like they're kind of like blocky, cube rectangular, and they fly around, and they were some were glowing, and then they would shoot a beam of light, and it injured some people, and they have marks on their skin from that, and it terrified the inhabitants of that island, just off the coast, and so a lot of them evacuated. But the Brazilian Air Force set up a base there, set up a recording information gathering mission there, which is called Operation Prato, because Prato means plate. So it's like Operation Saucer, like flying saucers. And they took pictures of these things flying around. So there is precedent of something like what's happening in New Jersey happening in Brazil about 50 years ago, that lasted a month and a half. And this current event happening for about a month now. So, what are they? I don't know. I mean, there's and why can't the government shoot them down? Well, there's stories of I don't know how much of them are true. That's the problem with going down this rabbit hole. You don't know how much is true and what's just made up. But there's stories of military trying to shoot these things down, and then the aircraft just either just disappear completely or they blow up, killing the pilots, or the pilots just are missing. So who knows what they are? I don't know. But it's really strange that there's so many of them, and they're flying over like a really populated area, and it's been going on this long. Are they? Let's just say they are UAPs. Now, could they be aliens? What are aliens? And I don't think that if this is UAPs, and I don't think aliens are really what we think they are, or what some people think they are. I think some people think that aliens are like from a different planet or something, and from another galaxy, and then they travel here and they're showing up. But if you look back at all these other stories back in time of what people saw when they saw UFOs or aliens, each time the UFO was it looked kind of similar to the technology of the day. There's reports of airships in the 1800s. There were UFOs, but they look like airships, but strange in some way. And then the passengers of the airships, the aliens, would speak English in these sightings that were in America, but they would say very strange things that didn't make any sense. Let's see if we can find pictures of that. Let's see here, Google.com, UFO airships, 1800s. Yeah, seeing just like weird stuff, like weird things. You know, they kind of look like UFOs that we like from our popular culture, but some of them just really bizarre. Like, look at this thing. That thing's so bizarre. And if you look at UFOs from different time periods, UFO style time period, based on the different time that they're seen, they look slightly different. And so, why would a UFO look different 10 years later, or 20 years later, or 30 years later, if they've traveled from light years away to come here? It doesn't make sense. So I think that somehow these things are somehow related to our consciousness. I have no idea how, because they reflect our psyche and our culture. If these things flying around New Jersey are actually UFOs or UAPs, it would kind of make sense that they look kind of like drones, but they're kind of weird in a way too. They're close to looking like what we fly and know of, and what we have, but something weird about them. The lights are in a weird place. What's blinking shouldn't be blinking. What's steady should be blinking. They just look strange. There's something odd about them. They don't have a in many stories of encountering these UAPs and UFOs, people describe that the electronics go out, like their car engine dies if one flies over near their car. Their car engine dies. Their radio goes out. That's a pretty common thing that people say when they've encountered these things. And so the fact that the New Jersey fire bulletin says, be aware that electronic devices and two-way radio systems may malfunction in the immediate area, kind of fits with that, but it could be an some kind of jamming device on some military aircraft. But why is there radiation? This is you have to do radiation monitoring, and people have been seeing some helicopters that are outfitted with radiation detectors flying around the area, and so that prompted some people to think that maybe there's some kind of nuclear thing, like a weapon or dirty bomb that's somewhere. But that doesn't make sense, because if there was, I think they would be looking day and night. I don't think they'd just be looking at nighttime. But let's see. Is there UFOs and radiation? Let's see if there is a link between UFOs and radiation. Cash Landrum incident. Betty Cash, Vicky Landrum, and Colby Landrum claimed to have seen a UFO while driving home. Didn't say anything about radiation. Well, I don't know about that. But yeah, UFOs, UAPs, they have a they hold a big space in our culture, and our consciousness, and people have been reporting these things since, like, Alexander the Great. I mean, or there's reports of, like, they'll be at a big battle and these glowing shields would fly over. That's how they would describe them, glowing shields. So this kind of visual and physical phenomena have been going on for a while, and I think what is going on in New Jersey is probably related to this, or it's some kind of super classified military operation. But I think just by the way that the government's talking about it, and the things that they're saying to watch out for, and then the things that, like, the local cops are figuring out about these drones, and citizens who are going out there and trying to get video and photographs at night. I think this is probably a mass sighting. It's probably a mass sighting, like on par with Operation Prato in Brazil. I think that's what this is, but I don't know for sure. And kind of wish I was on the East Coast, because I would definitely go out there with a camera, try to take pictures and video of this stuff. But yeah, I'd be curious to hear what you all think. And if any of you all are in New Jersey, let us know what you've been experiencing and hearing or seeing. I'll be following this every day, because I find it just totally, like, just I'm so curious about it. Well, that was kind of fun to just try to deep dive into this. I will probably do it again if there's more information that comes out. Yeah, well, I hope you have a good day.